Welcome to all of you looking at blending teaching strategies, technology, and emerging trends to create some engaging educational experiences. Now recently we pushed out a video on how to do behaviors in Camtasia Studio. Now behaviors are an easy way to be able to get motion and movement going in the video, especially if you want to bring in and out objects. But as we mentioned in our video where we talked about transitions, behaviors, and animations, if you really want to get something moving across the screen and be able to customize how that looks, animations are the way to go. So let's go ahead and take a couple minutes and look at how to put animations into Camtasia Studio. Now, as was the case with transitions and behaviors, you can apply an animation either to an individual object on the canvas or to a group of objects on the canvas. Now if you apply it to a group, it's going to make everything in that group follow that animation at the same time. Animations in general are a little bit trickier to use, so let's go ahead and start by looking at the basic concepts behind it first, and then we'll see how to actually implement it into Camtasia Studio. So when doing an animation, what we need to think of is where do you want the beginning of the movement to start and what do you want it to look like? And then, what do you want the end movement and look to look like? This could be where you want it to move. This could be a different size. This could be if you want it to be see-through and have opacity with it. If you're using annotations, do you want the color to change? All of these are things that can be adjusted using an animation, and you can mix and match it as well. So if we want to see the size and the color and the location of an annotation change, we can use an animation to do that. We just have to know what we want it to look like in the beginning, and then what we want it to look like in the end. Now once you have that picture of the beginning and the end kind of in your mind, it's pretty easy to go in and actually add this thing to Camtasia Studio. So to do that, what we need to do is start with what we do with most of the Camtasia tools, which is have an element in the timeline so we can animate it. We then go to Animations on the main menu. We switch the tab from Zoom and Pan to Animations, and there you'll see a bunch of pre-made animations that you can add. Now I haven't played around with a lot of these because I usually go to custom animation and make these things happen myself. So I'm going to go ahead and click on custom animation and drag and drop it onto the element in the timeline. Now you'll see that it's added an arrow on top of the object where I want the animation to occur. Now is where the fun begins. Notice a circle at the beginning and at the end of the arrow. These are keyframes, which is basically where it tells the software, this is what I want the object to look like at the start, and this is what I want the object to look like at the end. And then the software will make everything happen in between for you. You move the timeline counter over the first bubble on the left, and then you change whatever settings you want on the object, and you move it to wherever you want it to start on the canvas. Then you move the timeline counter to the second bubble on the right, and then you move the objects around again, or you change the settings and you're showing it where you want it to end. Then you hit play in the timeline and see how the animation looks. And there she goes, moving across the screen. Now remember though that we can also mix and match additional settings too. So if I want it to grow as it moves, I simply click on the second point on the right and then go to the Properties tab and change the scale to make it bigger. This means that the first keyframe on the left sees it as a smaller one when we play it, but the second one sees it as bigger. Now the software again will make it grow as it needs, and we can see that it grows and moves at the same time, which is what we wanted. This same concept can be used for any option you have in the Properties menu, such as opacity, color, rotation. All of these are possible. And so those are the basics of using animation in Camtasia Studio. Again, it's thinking about where you want that starting keyframe to be and what you want that ending keyframe to look like. After that, you can do all kinds of things. You want a sidebar to pop up over on the side? Use an annotation and put an animation on it. Oh no, it's covering my face up? That's okay, let's put an animation on the video of me talking and we can slide it over. You want them to slide in and out together? It's as simple as putting an animation on both the annotation tool and on the video and then syncing them up in the timeline. And don't forget, you can also change the duration of how long those animations are moving in and out. It's super easy to adjust, as you can just go ahead and click on one end of the animation arrow and then drag it a little bit longer or a little bit shorter. That way you can sync up that animation with exactly where you want it to go. Yeah, see, now that looks better. When playing around with animations, there are 3 more things that you need to consider. 1, you can have the object move in different directions. So for example, maybe I want it to move up at an angle and then back down, kind of like jumping over a hurdle. That can be done by basically using 2 animations, one for the jump up, followed by the other one coming back down, and then you put them back to back. So you can be creative with your motion paths if needed. 2, don't forget that you can start your animation paths off of the canvas and then bring them back onto the canvas. This is a nice way to bring in and out objects like the sidebar we did, or like just general items if you want them to appear on the screen using motion. Just be sure to start with the item all the way off of the canvas if you're taking it in, and then if you want it to leave the canvas, make sure you take it all the way back off when you're done. Lastly, point 3. When trying to move an overall object, not just the animation path, you can't just click and drag the object like we did with behaviors and transitions. Rather than moving the object, it will think you're just moving that one keyframe, either the beginning one or the end one. So if you think the whole path is moving too high and it's covering me up or something, and you want to move it lower on the screen, you'd have to move all of the keyframes. Now, there's a simple way to do this, and that is just to click over on this button that's on top of the Properties menu. This button basically tells Camtasia to move all keyframes at once, rather than just the one keyframe that your timeline counter is on. So we click that and move the animation down, and the whole thing moves at once. Just be sure to click that button back off when you're done, or you're going to get very frustrated when working on your next animation. That's about the gist on animations. It's actually a pretty easy tool to use once you understand that concept of a beginning keyframe and ending keyframe, and you let the software do the work in the middle. It can also create some really cool effects in there. So with that being said, are there some other ways that you guys can think of to use animations that might be nice to see? We had a cool one where we did that sliding sidebar and we had the video kind of slide in behind it, but there's got to be others out there. So if you can think of some, throw them down in the comments, and that way we can all go out and kind of toy around with it and see if we can make that effect work. Also, if you have other questions about animations or any other tool in Camtasia, put those in the comments too, and we'll try to get a video out there to help answer those questions. And lastly, if you like content like this where we're trying to blend teaching strategies and technology to kind of make our lessons and our trainings a little bit better, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because we want to get these tools into your hands so that you can make those educational environments just that much better. Now in the meantime, good luck with it, keep building, and we can't wait to see what you guys create.